Hello, everyone. I believe that you're all doing great, and welcome to today's live. And today, I just want to share one or two things with you about quantum leaps, and especially since that is actually what we are focusing on in my inner circle. So, um, if you've come across the idea of the inner circle or the idea of quantum leap, and you are quite interested in making something similar for your own self in your own life, then I'm going to say get registered in the inner circle. But let's come on to quantum leaps for a moment. And I want to share five important points about quantum leaps with you. So I want you to pay rapt attention. The first point is that quantum leaps are not about atoms and even subatomic particles. No, quantum leaps are not about atoms, subatomic particles, how the world is in the microverse. It's about you. See, I want you to understand that even though scientists may go from here to there and tell us everything about the quantum world, there is always a starting point of everything that is being discussed about the quantum world. And it is that the observed is influenced by the observer. So, that indicates one thing simply that everything that is also made as conclusions about the observed actually is derived from the observer's way of observing. In other words, the conclusions that are written are actually descriptions of the observer's observation of what he himself has taken as his premise. But you might not be able to, I don't know, I don't have to go deep into the very foundation of this. So we might not be able to cover deeper into the foundation of like the mathematics that evolved into the kind of mathematics that is being used to do all of these observations in the laboratory and experimenting and theorizing of quantum world. That's not necessary. What's necessary for this point is that quantum physics isn't about, quantum leaps aren't about quantum physics. Yes, it's about you. It's about your growth, your expansion, not even growth, your life, your changes, your results, and even your self realization of who you are. That's what quantum leaps are really all about. Um, Quantum leaps come for people every now and then in this world, but of course, not everyone is going to have a quantum leap. Let us be very clear of that. And if you think maybe what I'm saying isn't true, just observe around you. There are people who they leave this world, they depart from this world, and they haven't had a quantum leap experience in their lives. At least not as much as to your own personal observation and understanding of how the life has been. And that's not to say, of course, that's not to say they didn't live a wonderful or good or great life, or that they didn't live a life that's okay for them. But we're talking about quantum leaps. Okay, we're not talking about living a good life or living an okay life. We're talking about living with quantum leaps being your standard way of experience. All right. So quantum leaps are all about you. I don't see how you can put God or the imagination in a laboratory to study and then be able, by looking at the object that has been created, be able to devise the nature and character of the creation, of the creator himself. You might be able, of course, to tell what the creator has been busy about. That's his action, what he's doing. They can't tell who he is or how much powerfully he is by looking at the work of art he has done. And if you think you can, I'm just going to ask you to look at these structures that we call houses. They are built sometimes. I mean, I saw a picture about yesterday or 2 days ago about the tallest structures in the world. We had the Eiffel Tower, and then we had this one that's sitting now in Dubai, and there is one that is now under construction in another country in the world. And you look at all of the structures, just put man beside them. Could you tell that a human being who is about 6 feet tall on average that actually created all of these things? You can't. Do you realize? You can't use the study of atoms and subatomic particles to understand the nature and the reach of your own power, of the power of your imagination. No one has ever created a laboratory for the imagination that has not been set up by imagining what the laboratory would be. It's not it. So, first of all, this quantum leap is not about quantum physics. It's about results emerging from the exercise of your creative power. But of course, because the term quantum leap has not been used to actually describe exactly what we mean by exponential increase, that's why we're using it here also. So, what quantum leap really is all about is having exponential increase in your life in any area and every area of your life that matters to you: spiritual, psychological, emotional, physical, social, financial. I don't care. But you experiencing exponential increase. Now, that takes us to the second point. And the second point is that quantum leaps are not growth. Nah, not at all. For a person to grow, what you're talking about is additional increase, not exponential increase, not multiplicative increase. So, what do we mean by additional increase? I'll give you an example. The first thing about additional increase is that it is always logical. Okay? Always logical. The second thing about additional increase is that it has a bare minimum and it also has a maximum. Okay? It has a cap to it. It has the minimum, like the starting point. That's what you call the minimum. But it also has as far as you can go, or as much as you can go, if you want the system to continue to be stable. If you go beyond that, there's going to be a natural chaos or a natural breakdown to bring you back to that level, which is what some people have experienced as a phenomenon in their life. That when they try to reach out to a certain point in their life, okay, grow to a certain point, they find themselves crumbling back to like an average or a medium point, a midpoint, and then they struggle again and try to reach to a certain point, and they still find themselves taken back to the starting point or to a medium point. That is growth. That is not quantum leaps. Quantum leaps are not additional in nature. And I said the first thing about that is that it is not the logical increase. So, a logical increase is something like this. If I have one person, 1,000. So, what would I make if I have two people working for me? 2,000, right? That is logical. That is put in other words, that is additional. 1,000, 2,000. If I have 3,000. If I have 4,000. All right, we're back. Okay, so you can hear me now, I believe. So as I was saying, if I have 1,000. If I have 2,000. If I have 3,000. If I have 4,000. If I have 5,000. Now you take that and you would recognize what we call additional increase. Okay, that is additional increase. But what we're talking about as quantum leaps are not additional increase. It's far from additional increase. There's an example given to us in scriptures. It is that one will chase 1,000, but two will chase 10,000. How do you put that together? One chases 1,000, two chases 10,000. What's the logic in that? That is exponential. That is multiplicative. Before you can end up with 10,000 from 1,000, by making 1 become 2, the only thing you can do is to multiply the 1,000 by 10. That's what we mean by multiplicative. Okay? That is the only thing you can do is to make it an exponential. Go something like 10 raised to the power of 2 now becomes, or 10 raised to the power of 3 now becomes 10 raised to the power of 4. That's the only way you can actually make a reasonable increase or a reasonable understanding of such kind of a massive, huge increase. You can't add anything within reasonable, logical limits and be able to reach 10,000 from 1,000 from the basis of adding 1 to 1 and making it 2. It's impossible, but it happened. It happens anyway. The Bible tells us it happens by telling us 1 will chase 1,000 and 2 will defeat 10,000. And what are the two that we're talking about anyway? Imagination plus desire. Now, may I tell you, not so many people are willing to accept this because it still always feels like there has to be some extra, something behind it. And that one thing behind it people are looking for is the very reason why they lose focus on what we call exponential increase. In the royal inner circle, what we're doing is we are channeling that focus back to the one thing that it really is, and ensuring that we stay on it every single day, because it doesn't happen by going in and out. It's not by switching off and on. Okay, it's not by taking that switch and taking it off and on. It has to be something you're steadfast on every single day, and boom, you have the exponential increase. Okay, now it is exponential, it is multiplicative, and I gave various examples. This is an example I've given. I gave this example of a time in my life I was on a job and I was paid 10,000, an average 10,000 naira every month, and I worked on jobs that paid me that particular range. A job never paid me more than 15,000, and the job that paid me about for 15,000, I worked on it for maybe about 6 months. But beyond that, when I got another job and I had the promise that I would be having 15,000, at the end of the meeting I heard that they reduced it back to 10,000. So I got it at 10,000. So 10,000 a month, that's 120,000 a year for 8 years. That's about 960,000 naira in 8 years. Now take that and bring that together with a person making 30 million naira in a year, in 12 months. Do you realize that there is no way you can add 1 to 2 to 3 from everything you could logically do to reach 30 million, from 960,000 in 8 years to 30 million in a year? But that's exactly what we mean by exponential, okay? Exponential growth. So, rather exponential increase. In fact, forget about the word growth, and you'd understand why even further now. Now, Albert Einstein has always said a particular statement, or it was attributed to him, and lots of people quote it when it comes to topics of imagination. And they go, knowledge will take you from A to B, imagination will take you everywhere. But I don't think a lot of people understand that. The meaning, the idea of it is that when you know something, and you rely on what you know, the best you can do is to make a logical increase or an additional increase, what we call growth, from what you've known. That's the best, absolute best you can do with it. For example, if I know that one man working on this thing for me is going to give me 1,000, so 2 men working on it would give me 2,000. That's just the way it would feel. So what I want to do is to get 2 men to get me 2,000. If I want 10,000, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to try to find 10 men, right, to get me 10,000. But the laws of growth, of natural growth, or of growth that follows in this particular sequence, are subject to what we call diminishing returns. That means if 1 gives me 1,000 and 2 gives me 2,000, and I keep adding like that, 3 gives me 3,000, 4 gives me 4,000, the 5th one might actually give me 4,500 and not 5,000, because of what we call diminishing returns. Which means that the more I had, the less I could expect from the one I would be adding next. That's why I said logical growth has caps, and people think that because of the caps, they are limited. It's like when humans learn to fly the airplane, and then to think that, oh, because we've reached the clouds, we can go to the moon. That's exactly what it is like to have the logical growth. That is what it means by knowledge. You take it from A to B. Knowledge you take it from one logical conclusion to another logical idea. Okay, that's knowledge. But we're dealing with imagination. And imagination will take you everywhere. And what that means is that you don't have a pretext. You don't have any reason, any justification, or any validation for taking yourself from point A to point, even a point that is not in the points that have been known. But you take yourself there anyway. The only reason why you did that is because you imagined it. That is actually the only rule in quantum leaps, in exponential increase. And this is it. Let me put the rule for you in very clear terms. And this is going to be our 4th lesson. And it is that it did not exist. Not for you. It did not exist until you imagined it. Okay? It did not exist until you imagined it. And from the moment that you imagined it, it has always existed. all the way, even before you imagined it. And it will continue to exist even after you stop imagining it. Let us repeat that again. It did not exist until you imagined it. But from the moment that you imagined it, it exists already. And it continues to exist in that way. That simply means one thing. The only thing that limits you is what you actually imagine. Not even what you can imagine. It's what you imagine that limits you. In other words, if I choose to just sit down and just imagine a particular idea, maybe the idea of teleporting, it doesn't exist. No one has done it before, right? People would say that. But the moment I imagine it, it already exists. It now starts to exist. And because I've imagined it, it will continue to exist forever and evermore. That's the rule in quantum leap. So what that means is that you take a location and you just make it up. This is why we call it leap, not growth. Growth means I take a particular baseline, and we're now coming to the fifth lesson. This is growth. I take a baseline, then I go, if I add 1 to 1, I should move this baseline from here to here. That's growth. But leap is like this. Okay, I'm starting from a baseline, but now I'm taking a location. It's arbitrary. Doesn't exist. No one has done it before. There is no evidence that it could happen. I have not done it before in my life. I've never seen it before. I've never experienced it. I've not even witnessed it with many people. But I take it. It's arbitrary. That location. This is my baseline. By the laws of growth or additional increase, I should go from this baseline to this, to this, this, to 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 this, over all the years before I could reach this point. But I chose this location, and this is the baseline. And you just go whoop to that level. That's quantum leap. And I'm telling you, this is what I do. I've experienced it time and time and time again. And one of the greatest things about quantum leaps is that it's not by your efforts. I mean, just look at it. One person makes 1,000. 2 people should make 2,000. And 5 people should make 5,000 rand, right? But we have one person make 1,000 flee. But 2 people make 10,000 flee. That means it's not by the effort of the 2 people. This is not law of increase. This is exponential growth. This is exponential. It's a boom. So you started from the baseline, and then you take a location. It's arbitrary. No history that it could be done. No premonition. No indication that it could happen. And you don't even know how it would happen. But you take it anyway, and then you just go whoop to that level. And everyone else is still trying to follow the law of growth, because that's what their reasoning mind tells them. That's the logical thing. They look at you and they go, how could you do that? How could you do that? That's completely insane. We don't think that you should do that. That doesn't work with our system. Or they go, could you teach us how you do that? But you are here. And maybe they're going by the law of growth, and so they are here. You are here and they're here. But you take yourself from here, you didn't go by the law of growth, you just go from here to here. And where is the only place you can do that? Let us go back to Albert Einstein's ideas. It says it is done by imagination. Imagination takes you everywhere you want to go. But knowledge will take you from here to here. You might have to know what you do to your elders who are on this level in order to be on that level. Or might have to know what are the best strategies you can do to be on this level. But you want to take an exponential leap, a quantum leap, you're here. The only thing you have to do is to imagine. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to know how all of this work. You don't have to listen to anybody about all of this has to work. All you have to do is to imagine that you're here, and everything is going to fall in line to put you there. That's just how it works. So I want you to do the same thing for yourself. And yes, once again, this is about the royal inner circle. Okay? This is a mastermind of quantum leaps. That is all I care about. If you're not ready for quantum leaps, or if it's not the exact thing you want yet, please and please, this is not about just go on and enjoy the law of growth, additional increase. It's enjoyable. It's okay for everyone. Not everyone is ready. Like I said, it's not always peaceful because gets to a point you try to add more, but you get less results for it. So it's frustrating. And people think that it's like they get to a cap, they get to a limit. But you can see there are no limits with quantum leaps. Okay, quantum leaps, you go from here, you just go up. You just go to any level. And it could be somewhere, yeah, you don't see my hand, right? It could be somewhere there. No one sees it. And then you're there. And then everyone sees you with it. And they go, how did that happen? We thought we knew him yesterday. I could tell this very well. My mom, on many occasions, and my dad, especially my mom would say this, especially. She would say, you know, you changed. And she's literally talking in terms of seeing me between a week, or within a week, or seeing me just 2 weeks apart. And she would still say, you changed. My sisters who were closest to me would still say, how did you transform like that? You transformed like that. And I'm sure so many people here could have. In fact, one person came on and said, you know, I saw your live in September, and I saw another live of you in this January, and a difference. You're a different person. I could see it. And this is someone who's just saying it live, right? It's live. I couldn't even have known how to make something better than how it was in September, but I knew something. I chose arbitrary locations for where I would like to be. Arbitrary increase. You wanna do that, okay? If that's what you're ready for, then send me a message. Come into the Royal Mastermind, okay, for quantum leaps, and let's do it together. It's 365 days back to back. That's what I want. I'm seeing people here who not only have the commitment to change their lives in a dramatic, drastic, magical manner, okay, but to get to the end of this 365 days and go, all right, I did these quantum leaps, and then now I'm feeling refreshed to do even more of this quantum leaps to exponent the exponential increase that has been in my life. Those are the kind of people I want. Not people who think that it happened because of some magical things or because of some X, Y, and Z things they did. I want people who know what they're doing. I knew what I did, and that's why I could come out and say it. Of course, not every person has the kind of result I've had. Come out and say it. But that's also because not so many of them know what they did. So when I didn't know what I was doing, I couldn't come out and say it. I'd get some results, but I didn't know. So I would lose it again in about 1 or 2 months because I didn't know how to sustain it. So I couldn't come out and say this is what I was doing. But I know what I'm doing. I know how I make quantum leaps happen. So I could come out and say it. And I can come out and show you the results. And I want people who can be able to stand on their own like that. Okay, so if that's you, then send me a message. And let's go on quantum leaps. And remember this. Quantum leaps is not about quantum physics. I think the word really is meant to mean about exponential increase. That's just it. It's not about, how atoms behave. If you think atoms behave in a special way that can tell you the secret of creation, just have this in the back of your mind. Atoms decay. If you haven't heard that before, now you hear it. Atoms decay. We call it half-lives. That means they die. If you haven't not been aware of that, it means they go from something of a higher quality or a higher level and they degrade. They fall, the quality of life they have falls into a lower level. Okay? It's just like humans' bodies that die. It grows old and then it dies. That's exactly what atoms are like. You want to learn how the secret of transforming and changing your life and renewing it from things that die. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't go on that particular kind of cruise. I want something serious for myself. I want transformations that are very, very remarkable transformations. So I could look back and say, I did this. I'm very wonderful with myself. I gave myself the absolute best of it all. So, if that's what you want, well then, be on this train. Because I did it. And for 365 days counting from now, from the day you began, We'll do it together. And yes, one important information is this. This is very limited membership. There's only so many people we could have there because I also have commitments of one-on-one with each person in the inner circle. Okay, and I also want to see that I'm actually able to support each person with my own imaginal moments. Okay, so I want only very limited people in this class and no more than that. Okay, so it's first come first serve basis. When the slots are filled up, they're filled up. You might have to wait for another 365 days for the opportunity. I don't say your life is going to wait. Of course, you're going to continue to experience your own bounds and growth yourself. I know that. I assume that for you. But for those who want, for you who want to experience what we call exponential increase, this is the moment. Now is the window. And whatever it costs you, this is the least you can do. Commit to yourself and say, I'm going to do a quantum leap. And take what you call your pen. Alright, take your pen. And then once you come to me and you want to sign in and you look at, okay, and you tell me you've made the payments, then write out exactly how much you pay. And then commit to yourself that you're going to multiply this not by addition, but by exponents. You raise it up to the power of 2 or to the power of 3 or to the power of 4 or something. I don't care what power you want to raise it up to. But there you go. This is how much I'm going to turn it to be in just a year from now. And that would be the least of all the results I would have. I could tell you all of my money stories from today until tomorrow, but I'm still telling you it's the least. Look at this. This is me happily married. So tell me, money is the least of all the successes I really have had. But then, if the list is so wonderful that I'm actually surprised at it, what do you think the best is? So I want you to make a commitment and send me a message to get it right. And in fact, don't wait until I finish the live. Already send a message. And talk to you all later. Bye-bye.